Okay, welcome to Gun Talk Nation. Gun Talk Nation is brought to you by Timney Triggers and by Pyramid Air. So, today, let's talk about something interesting. Kids and guns. They do mix. Uh-oh. Oh my gosh, what did he just say? Today on the show, we're going to talk about kids shooting sports. And to talk about that, we've brought in Ben Berka from the Scholastic Shooting Sports Foundation. Did I say that right, Ben?
Yeah, that's correct.
So welcome in, man. I mean, I follow what you guys do, and I think it's awesome. And for people who are saying Scholastic Shooting Sports, what's this all about? Tell them, what's it all about?
Yeah. Well, first off, Ryan, thanks for having me on the show. Appreciate it, getting a chance to talk to you and all your listeners. So, Scholastic Shooting Sports Foundation, in a nutshell, who we are, we're a 501c3 public charity, and really we're focused on youth development through organized team-based shooting sports. So really what that looks and feels like is if you think about your traditional ball sports teams that are organized, they have adult leadership through their coaches. They have practices throughout the season, competitions, usually a culminating state and or national championship event. That's what we're doing, just with shotguns, handguns, and rifles.
Okay. So I was going to ask that. So what disciplines are within what you guys do? What type of shooting?
Yeah, so Scholastic Shooting Sports Foundation, we operate two programs. One is the Scholastic Clay Target Program, and that focuses on all the clay target disciplines. So trap, skeet, sporting clays, and then the international side of that, so bunker trap, international skeet. Our other program is the Scholastic Action Shooting Program, and that is rifle and pistol shooting on steel targets for time. So if your listeners are familiar with Steel Challenge, it's similar to that in that we have a typical stage is 5 plates with 4 bang plates and a stop plate. So the shooter's on the clock, and basically it's a game of speed and accuracy. How fast can you hit the targets? So the unique thing about what we do is that everything we do is team based. So while individuals are competing for individual awards, usually the bigger prize is the team aspect of that.
So it's kind of like being on a track team or a swimming team where you are competing individually, but the team as a whole is competing, something like that.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So on the action shooting part, the pistols and rifles, are those all 22 calibers or are they centerfire as well?
Both. So we have several divisions. So within the rimfire, we have divisions for optics, for iron sights. The centerfire, 9mm is the most popular, most competitive caliber, and we have also PCC.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
What are the numbers like? What are the participation numbers that you guys have in these different disciplines, or as a total, I guess?
Yeah.
On SSSF.
Yeah. So if we look at the total, roughly we have about 20,000 athletes throughout the country, and we're typically in 46 to 48 states most years. And those kids are led by, in the neighborhood of 5,000 adult volunteer coaches.
Wow. That's awesome. So they're shooting a lot of rounds, I imagine.
Yeah. Millions of rounds every year.
So are you guys affiliated with school systems, public schools, private schools, or is this a completely independent from the school system thing, or is this some sort of combination?
Yeah, it's a combination, and it really depends, where our programs are at. Some are closely affiliated with schools, and most of those school teams are club-based teams, meaning that they typically don't get, direct funding or direct support in terms of equipment through the school. But the nice thing about that is the schools recognize that shooting sports are unique, and not every kid plays ball sports. So shooting sports are really a good opportunity to help motivate kids, to hold them to academic standards and good conduct policies.
Right. And how do you guys find the coaches? Because this is not everyone grows up doing this stuff, and it must be a little bit different. How do And also, I think probably our listeners would be interested to go, wait a minute, I could be a coach, or I could help develop a team, or maybe they go, I like shooting. I didn't even know my kid could be on a shooting team. Is this something that anyone could start? I mean, where do we go with this?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's not so much a matter of where do we find coaches. It's coaches finding us. So, if we look at the demographics of our coaches, the vast majority didn't start out as competitive shooters. When I first got into this business, I thought that would be the case, but really who it is, it's the parents where, kids can't find a fit in other traditional sports, or they grow up with interest or curiosity about firearms and shooting sports. And so, that leads parents that want to support their kids, or grandparents that want to support their grandkids. So how do I get involved in a team? So we offer support through that. We just launched last year a new coach education program. And so it's really a simple way to get started.
So where would they go to find out more information, and where do they start? I mean, you said there's a new program for that.
Yeah. So our website would be the best place to go. We actually have 3 websites. So if you just searched in your favorite web browser for Scholastic Shooting Sports Foundation, you'll find us. The direct link is sssfonline.org. From there, you can go to our program site, and right at the top of the page, you'll see a place for coach education.
So let's talk about if a kid is getting involved in this and they're having some success. I mean, how far can we take this? I mean, I guess I know the end answer, where there's some pretty cool avenues as far as competitively. There are college scholarships. Heck, we have the Olympics too. Talk about some of those avenues and where some of your athletes have gone on to.
Yeah. No, that's a great question. And really the sky's the limit. Obviously, like other sports, really what we're after is bringing up good, responsible future citizens for our country through the program. And, that's what we're putting out every single day. Through that, we've seen some standouts that are highly competitive. But, again, for the most part, what we're after is getting kids out there that are going to be winners in life. They're going to be future leaders. They're learning the skills and character development that you just can't learn through other traditional sports.
So how does the shooting sports help develop those youth? Maybe, and also, I guess, maybe how does it differ from other stick and ball sports that people are used to seeing and kids participating in? How does this help develop those skills?
Yeah. Well, I think, obviously the first thing is, using and being around firearms requires a high level of responsibility. Just working with that sporting equipment, if you want to put it in that context. You've got to have a level of maturity that may be, beyond what some of the other sports require. Aside from that, just, general organizational skills. What do I have to do? What do I have to bring to the range with me today for practice or for competition? Start talking about fitness and nutrition. That's all important if you want to compete at a high level. Trying to have a sugary snack or, a drink before you go out to the line isn't going to do you a lot of good. So, coaches and athletes really working on that, those skills carry over to other things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's been my experience that when you take a youth, I struggle as a youth kid, whatever. I don't know how you guys adjust it, but you take someone new, a young person shooting, even folks who they say, I don't know about my kid. They're a little, they're not maybe as responsible as I'm not sure if they can handle it. It seems to me that those young people typically rise to the occasion because they're given this responsibility, and there are no compromises about this. There's no joking around. You really can't, there's no wiggle room. You know what I mean? It's not like, well, they're not listening. Who cares? It seems like they always rise to the occasion in the past as I've seen this.
Yeah, that's right. I'd agree with that. And I think, most of the athletes recognize that this sport's different. It requires that responsibility. They recognize that there's zero tolerance for any trouble or horseplay, and and they respect that. And again, going back to a lot of the kids that the sport attracts, and again, a big difference with shooting sports is that there's no bench. Every kid plays. You go to a tournament, you can field every kid on your roster that wants to shoot. That's a little bit different. So the kids that can't participate in other ball sports for whatever reason recognize that, and they want to be engaged. And so, they're going to make sure that their behavior and conduct is at a level that keeps them involved.
That's a great point. Everybody's competing every time. I'm assuming these are all co-ed teams. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we've got a fairly high percentage of girls, around 20% overall, and it continues to grow every year, which is awesome.
All right. So if I have a kid and I'm thinking this might be fun to try out, and I didn't, I've heard about trap teams and stuff like that, but I didn't realize that they could shoot pistols or rifles in sort of a speed steel challenge type of setup. How do how do you choose? And is there a particular, like if a kid is, I don't know, tall, maybe you think about basketball. If they're really fast, you think about soccer, have great hand-eye coordination, or they're big. Maybe they could, be on the offensive or defensive line of football, but how do you choose and find where the right place is for that kid with all these different disciplines of shooting?
Yeah, that's a great question. My advice would be try them all.
Yeah.
If you can, and it boils down, I think, a lot to the local resources around you. So we're fortunate to have, lots of the gun clubs and shooting ranges out there that support our teams, and we couldn't do it without them. So, I'd encourage folks to try to find a team that's local in their area. And the best way to do that would be to go to our program sites. For Scholastic Clay Target Program, the website is mysctp.com. For the Scholastic Action Shooting Program, it's mysasp.com. From there, they should find a link for Find a Team and be able to find a map to go and kind of hone into your local area.
Yeah, I guess you're right. If depending on where you are, you may have access to a great wing shooting facility and maybe not as much pistol and rifle, or vice versa. I guess it depends on what's close to you.
Yeah. Yeah. And if there's nothing close to you or no team established, I'd encourage you to reach out to us and our program staff. They're fantastic for helping out, connecting the dots between gun clubs and shooting ranges and new prospective coaches.
What age range are the young people participating?
So generally, it's elementary school through college. So we've got kids as young as 8, 9 years old, and up to 25 years old that are full-time college students. Wow,
that's really cool. Hey, real quick, Gun Talk Nation is brought to you by Savage Arms. Savage has just introduced their first straight pull rifle. Straight pull. Wait a minute. That sounds cool. It's called the Impulse, and it's basically, it looks like a bolt action, but the bolt doesn't go up and back and then forward and then back down. You just pull it back, pull it forward, so it's very fast. It also has a lot of the other features that a Savage has, like the Accu trigger and some of those things. Adjustable, the Accu Fit stock. One of the cool things about straight pull is that it can be ambidextrous, so you can swap the handle to the other side of the gun, which obviously we all know on bolt guns, but it doesn't work that way. It's problematic. So check them out at savagearms.com. The new straight pull Impulse rifle looks pretty cool. Also, ATN Optics making this possible. The future of optics. Would you like to see in the dark? Yeah, that's pretty cool. So they have thermal imaging, they have night vision, they have smart digital optics. These are rifle scopes, binoculars, range finders that all talk to each other. So connecting with Bluetooth, connecting to your phone or the app, and it has a lot of capabilities as far as video recording, as far as other things like two-shot zeroing, and some really neat features. And I don't know, it's just it's kind of mind-blowing. It's not the way we used to think about optics. So check them out at atncorp.com, and you too can see in the dark. So all sports are somewhat gear-centric and gear-heavy, some more than others. Obviously, this one at the very minimum requires some gear, a gun, some ammo, a shooting vest or whatever. Do they need to have all the gear? Where do they start with all of that part of it?
Yeah, typically what we tell new families coming into the sport is get connected with your coach on your local team if there's one available. Typically, coaching staff will have some loaner equipment to try out, and will most definitely have good advice on what to get.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes, we see parents that want to go out and get the equipment first, and then they find out it's not the right fit, or whatever the case, where they end up buying again. So, always best to reach out to your coach first.
That makes sense. And I love that they have loaners. Now, I know what our listeners are, gun enthusiasts, and they're thinking, wait a minute, we're going to have to use more ammo here in a year where we don't even know where all the ammo is. How's that affecting you guys, and how are you dealing with it?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, all of our teams are certainly feeling it. We're very fortunate that our programs are supported well by the industry. And so I know the industry is working hard to support our programs, just like they're working hard to support all the other consumers of ammunition. So, we've been trying to work closely with them to do what we can. We've encouraged our coaches to plan ahead. I think a lot of folks saw this coming. So, we've been reaching out to teams and, just kind of letting them know, hey, plan up for the season, get what you can when you can. And, just maybe have to adjust practices and competitions accordingly.
I mean, but typically a given team, they are buying their own ammo, or the kids are buying their own ammo or something like that. How does that work?
Yeah, it's really all the above. A lot of our teams will do a bulk purchase at the beginning of the year, and get, kind of the basic needs for the team covered for competitions and their general practices. Most of the athletes out there that are shooting outside of team practices, they're supplementing that on their own. And so it's a little bit of both.
I would think a team would be having weekly reloading parties or something like that.
Sounds like a good plan.
Yeah. Hey, let's all get together at coach's house or team captain's house or something and pool our primers together or something. I don't know.
Yeah. And there is some of that.
So Ben, how much do these competitors get to travel for this stuff?
Again, there's a wide range, and it's really as little or as much as you want to. And so with both of our programs, we offer opportunities to compete virtually. So essentially you can, be there at your practice during the week and have kind of a virtual postal competition, if you will, set up where you declare your round or your stages as a competition stage, shoot those, record your scores or your times in our computer system. And then we have a system that aggregates, teams within a particular competition together. So that's one. We have a lot of states that have multiple local competitions available. We host a number of regional events, multi-state events around the country, and then several national events. So, it's really the full spectrum, and it just kind of boils down to, time, money, and motivation.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I like the flexibility of that. So with 20,000 competitors and you guys have been doing this for a number of years, you've got to have some stories of some athletes who have risen through the ranks or are able to compete in this, whereas maybe they weren't competing in other types of sports. Are there any that come to mind for you as you think about the people participating in this?
Yeah, many. more than we have time to talk about for sure. But I think, and again, there's been outstanding shooting achievements made by multiple athletes. We have a young lady from southeast Wisconsin that made the Olympic team, Maddie Bernal. So she'll be competing in Tokyo. So that's one recent example of just an outstanding shooting accomplishment, and she's an outstanding young lady too. But a lot of the stories, again, I think it's athletes that have had personal challenges, whether it's been health related or school issues, where they're trying to get their grades up and really work hard, and shooting sports has been a great motivator for that. So those are stories that we hear every day, and it's really changing the lives of young people.
That's awesome. So what happens when someone gets on the shooting team with regards to their grades? What typically happens?
So again, this is one advantage of being affiliated at some level with the school, is that there's a level of communication between the coaching staff and your school sponsor or administrator. And so, just like other sports, there's periodic check-ins where we're checking for grades, we're checking for conduct. And again, that just serves to be a motivator to keep those kids engaged in school.
That's great. Yeah. Very interesting. What other things should people know about the Scholastic Shooting Sports Foundation and what you guys do?
Yeah. That's a good question. I think, I mentioned earlier the coach education program, and that's something we're excited about. Because really what we're doing is we're helping provide and be a resource for the next generation of leaders. So, just like kids that graduate out of the programs, our coaches cycle out. So as seniors graduate, the parents or grandparents that were with those kids churn out. So we're constantly having to put more new coaches in the pipeline. So
sure.
The way our new coach education program works is it's mostly online. So they would go start and do, it takes most people 8 to 10 hours of online coursework, and then follow that up with a range day.
And then putting together a team. I would imagine most of the coaches come from people who have kids, who, they want to put them in the program, or maybe grandkids or something like that, I guess, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
So this coach program is an easy way to get started in it. The range day portion of that takes about a half day, and it's done locally. So it gives them a chance to connect with others that are in the same situation of starting a team, plus give them resources of the local experts who have been training coaches for a while. So gives them a chance to have a resource and get a lot of their questions answered.
That's awesome. Well, and another thing that you guys are doing is, as there are a lot of options for extracurricular activities for kids these days. And I mean, like, too many. And,
right.
And, if you may have an interest in shooting or hunting, guns in general, but if you don't pass that along to whether it's your kids or your grandkids, or maybe there's a nephew or niece or somebody that you could help out with, they're going to pick up something. And it may be golf, it may be football, it may be Xbox. And now they don't have a gun culture. They didn't grow up with guns, and they just become one of these people that says, I don't know anything about guns. I didn't grow up with guns. And in my opinion, that leads down the road of people who are ignorant about guns and bigger picture as far as gun rights and all of those things. And it really does start with introducing the youth to shooting, and that it's fun, it's safe, and it's just a great activity. And it's one of those activities, look, Xbox and football, you probably shouldn't be doing it until you're in your 70s or 80s or whatever. But this is a sport that you absolutely can do throughout your entire lifetime And now it's a skill. I mean, some people would say, talk about golf or tennis, similar in that way. But this is another skill that kind of takes you through, and you can participate in it as an adult, whether that's for pleasure, for business, whatever. It's just a useful thing to know. And heck, I mean, it could be something that gets you into hunting, putting food on the table for family, or whatever it may be. I mean, Ben, how were you introduced to it?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Ryan, and those are all good points too. So, my personal introduction, my family did not hunt, weren't very active shooters, in terms of participating in shooting sports or hunting, but were supportive of my interest, and so I grew up just locally squirrel hunting and pheasant hunting, and I had a bird dog that I struggled to shoot pheasants over, and got connected with a bird dog buddy of mine that was a skeet shooter, and introduced me to that. So, it's kind of all downhill from there, as they say. But
you got the bug.
So I love it all. But back to the programs, I think, talking about kids getting started early, and I think that's one neat thing about our Scholastic Action Shooting program is, it uses 22s, and so kids at a very young age can get started in that sport quickly. And we've also just this year started introducing air pistol as a precision type of discipline in that. So, kids at a very young age can get started and work their way through, trying all the different things that we have to offer. And as you say, we open up a lot of doors, and that's kind of what we hope is kids will, venture into other forms of shooting sports or hunting, and then just enjoy that sport with their family for life.
That's fantastic. And you probably, our audience probably sees it. You have youth shooters who are also pro shooters. They are actually sponsored by companies like CZ or Smith & Wesson or Ruger. And that's pretty amazing. Yeah. I mean, now you're starting to get into somewhat of a career, a hobby becomes a career, becomes a hobby kind of thing, which is just amazing. Where they're able to, maybe there's some cost underwritten, maybe they make money, maybe they get to do some neat traveling. One of the places a lot of times you meet these folks is like at the NRA show. They'll be representing these companies at a booth. So just an amazing experience that's, I think, maybe more accessible than people realize. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And we've had a lot of young folks come out, and industry is certainly taking note of the kids that we're producing. And I think if you look at a lot of the pro shooters out there, the ambassadors, if you will, they're not always the top at the leaderboard in the competitions, but they're great ambassadors. They're great people. They have great character, and I feel that's what our programs are producing.
Well, and that's what those companies are looking for. I mean, I will say a lot of the youth shooters that I've met over the years and worked with on doing some television stuff, they're impressive. These are a lot of times these are kids who are 12, 13, 14, 15 years old, and they walk right up to you. They look you in the eye. They shake your hand. They don't look at their shoes when they're talking to you. I mean, it's pretty cool. And that's what those companies want. Yes, being a good shooter is a good thing, but being a good ambassador, as you said, is really sometimes even a bigger deal for them.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%.
Well, Ben, all right. So I know we talked about it, but I feel like people are going to listen to this and say, wait a minute, this is too cool. I want to get my kids involved, or I want to become a coach, or maybe neither of those things work for them, but maybe there's a way for them to support what you guys are doing. Cause obviously it takes some bucks to put all this stuff together. How do they find out more? How do they support you guys?
Yeah, no, that's great. And we're certainly looking for all those things. So again, the best way for folks to find us to get started would be through our website. And our foundation website, you can search in your favorite browser, Scholastic Shooting Sports Foundation. You'll find it. The direct website is sssfonline.org. And from there in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see a couple links for the Scholastic Play Target Program, Scholastic Action Shooting Program. And so if you're, really looking towards the path of getting a child or a grandchild involved, click through to the programs. if you said, hey, I love shooting sports, I just want to see this keep going, I want to support the efforts of the foundation, right there on our foundation page, there's a place to donate. There's lots of different options for folks to look at and think about. So any of that would be appreciated.
And it's a 501c3. You get a tax deduction.
Exactly. Yep.
Good deal. Ben, thanks for being on with us. I hope people will go check you guys out, and what you're doing is a bigger deal than people realize. It's bigger than kids shooting clays. I think it's important for our country and for our freedoms and all that stuff. So thanks for being on with us.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Ryan. Thank you.
All right, that's it for us. We'll see you next time on Gun Talk Nation.